Hello, I'm Savion, and welcome to your next favorite podcast, Feed the Soul.
You're listening to the Feed the Soul podcast. We're talking about tackling tough stuff, chasing dreams, and figuring out who we really are. Each episode ends with a word of advice or encouragement, a nugget of inspiration to empower you to dream big and take that leap of faith into the wild adventure of life.
Hello, and welcome. Wow, it's happening. What a long time coming. Very excited for this moment. I have to say, this is something that I've had in the subconscious, in the back of my mind for a long time. And I've always looked, I think, to podcasters or YouTubers, and I thought, oh, I cannot do that because, well, I don't have the right background or equipment or those other things that they have that makes it look really good. And what I've learned is, hey, we all start somewhere. So here I am, and I'm really excited. This podcast, Feed the Soul, is a podcast of inspiration. It's one of truth, of encouragement, of support, and I'm excited to share it with you. A little bit about me. Again, my name is Savion, and this podcast comes from, if you will, my story. Since grade school, my report cards have mentioned that I talk a lot in class, can be a disruption or distraction. And the fact of the fact is, it's a fact. It's very true. I did talk a lot. I got in trouble for talking in class a lot. And, well, what can I say? Ultimately, it came down to me learning more about my classmates and learning about people. To this day, I love getting to know people and what they do and what inspires people and what lights up their heart and their soul with their purpose. And I remember vividly this moment in college where someone said to me that I was like an interviewer. I ask a lot of follow-up questions, and it's very true. I do. I mean, what can I say? I'm a curious guy. And I was like, what? I need to do something with this. It could be, I could keep it to myself for sure. And that's what I did for the longest time. And learning about people, it was for me. But what I've also learned is that we have goals. We have these visions. We are shooting for the moon with our goals. And just like me in this podcast, sometimes we don't see ourselves in those shoes that we want to walk in. So for me, having this podcast, it's like I don't see anyone that's just seems like they're just beginning. They all seem pretty established and set. And I was like, well, I guess that's not for me. But there is someone out there like you who started where you are, just like all of those established podcasters. And so this does show a lot of my story in this podcast. There's a lot of solo episodes of just me, but there is still so much more. And a little bit about the solo episodes. It's about me talking about my journey and some of those tough topics that I've reflected on and I've grown through, like grief and depression or failure and people pleasing. Those are topics to me that are, kind of tough to talk about, and maybe you resonate with that. But there's also topics I'd love to talk about, like gratitude and joy. And those are definitely something that maybe you resonate with as well. But with that, it's also episodes where there's guests on the show. Like I said, I have a story, but so do they. I have yoga masters and doctors and entrepreneurs and film producers and community advocates. And just as I share my story with you, they too have a story to share. Because like I mentioned, when we have these goals and we want to see ourselves doing these things, representation does matter. And so I want the guests to share their stories, where they came from and what got them to where they are now. Because I realized over time, it's like, I always grew up, it takes a village. and community is really important. But like the community I grew up in, I spent a lot of time at the Boys and Girls Club in community. Even the college I went to, small town community. And that was a big moment for me of realizing how important small town business support is and how important it is to just support those around you. And so the first season of guests are from my neighborhood. They are from, and I put neighborhood in quotes because no, they don't live next door to me, but they live in Milwaukee. I wanted to start in my own backyard by bringing those people on and supporting those the guests that I have, their businesses, and let them share with you so that you can support them as well. Additionally, with those episodes, with the guests, we move around the city of Milwaukee as well. I wanted to film in and record in spaces that are, again, in my neighborhood. I put that in quotes again, in my own backyard to support them and to show you what we have here in Milwaukee. And if you ever come and visit, or you might live here, check out these spaces as well and support them. Maybe I guess that's not even in person, it could be online. But ultimately, I would like for the guests and for my episodes to leave you with a word of encouragement and to leave you with support, and believe that you can to continue to chase those dreams and explore what that means to you. The layout of the show goes like this. It's called Feed the Soul, and I wanted to play on food. It just That's just who I am. And so I have a full course meal happening here. We start with an appetizer. My solo episodes, it's defining what that means. Again, failure or grief. My definition of those words, but I also might bring in the Webster's Dictionary or Oxford Dictionary and define the words there as well and kind of compare and contrast what those two mean or don't mean to me. Our episodes with guests, for the appetizer, it's them introducing themselves, who they are, what they do, giving you a little sneak peek because, that's what an appetizer is. We don't want to give you all the good goods all right away. We do move into the main course, and that's where we dive a little bit deeper into our story. My story with depression and now joy, the journey with our guests and where they started and where they're going, the mountains that they climbed. We've all had mountains that we've climbed. We've all had to go over some hurdles. It's when you get to look back down the mountain and see how far you've come that you're like, wow, I need to keep pressing forward because I am getting somewhere. And that's kind of what the dessert is all about. We love to have a little sweet treat at the end. And this is the big takeaway. This is that piece of encouragement or that tip or that word of support to give you, to push you and to continue to encourage you to climb that mountain to get to the top. It's also where you can find more about our guests. It's where they share their social media or their website with you because, with dessert, oftentimes it's sugar and we want more. And so that is the piece where, hopefully that they gave you so much in that main course that you want even more. Or you want to support them or you want to take a workshop with them. This is where you can find it there. So you have to hang on till the end. And finally is the final sip. We typically have something left in our glass, a little sip of coffee left, or even just some water that we want to cleanse the palate with a little bit. It's just the one word or sentence to leave you with. It may be a call to action, it may be a signature farewell, but it's something there just to leave you feeling good. Just that final sip, that final piece at the end to leave you with. So grab a bite, grab your mug, come have a seat at the table, come and feed and fill your soul with the Feed the Soul podcast. It's Leap Day. I'm taking a leap with this podcast. I am super excited to have you along for the ride as well. And the first of each month is a guest episode. And then every other week after that would be a solo episode. So it might be 2 episodes a month. It could be 3 episodes a month, depending on how many weeks are in the month. We'll consider that third episode a bonus episode. So check back. You can check me out on Instagram. Feed the Soul Pod would be the handle, or typing in Feed the Soul Podcast. You can also find me on YouTube right here at Feed the Soul as well. Follow, subscribe, like, Spotify, Apple Music. Check it all out. It's around, it's available to you. And remember, to the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. Go in peace.